Popular vote is now trading at 80 cents. That's what you might want for if you want a quick flip.
To watch throughout the night. So that door right back there, that is where representatives from each of the counties, more than 100 precincts, are coming in, and they kind of walk this kind of interesting, almost parade-like route here. They walk through this kind of sectioned off area, this roped-off area, and then they come
Michigan,
over here
going for Trump here,
several
Minnesota as well,
are waiting to receive the memory cards and the ballots. If you'll walk with me over here,
Trump
I'll kind
can
of
now
show you this area.
claim victory.
So they come over to these tables right here, and we see them
94% on Polym Market.
Scan them in. Each person kind of scanning in what's inside, and then once it's scanned, the memory cards go inside what we're kind of calling this almost fishbowl-like situation. This is just this very large plexiglass-surrounded area in the middle of this giant warehouse where the votes are being tabulated. And you see the three people that are seated right there in the black at the computers. Those people have been in there diligently throughout the night, tabulating and uploading the results. They started with the early vote count. They've been going. And you hear right now, I think you hear a loudspeaker. These are people who are actually announcing that another precinct has come in. Every time someone comes from another precinct, you get a loud announcement overhead. We see them come in. I will tell you an update on timing here as well, guys. We understand that all of the results are here in the building. They're just waiting on them to be uploaded. And so when I last spoke with the elections director, she told me she expects to see that happen by 11 o'clock. And so we could see that happen sometime in the next few minutes as more ballots come in right here, guys.
Fascinating and really news we can use at this point. Blaine Alexander for us in Fulton County at the main voting center there. Again, underscoring what Blaine just reported, that the spokesperson for the Secretary of State's office says the, quote, vast majority of Georgia votes will be in by midnight, which means they will be in by an hour from now. As we close in on 11 p.m. Eastern and poll closings in 4 western states, we're getting close to the end of all the poll closings here in the United States of America. 4 closing right now in California, Idaho, Washington, and Oregon. In terms of our projections here, NBC News can project a winner in the presidential race in California. Kamala Harris, California native, is projected to be the winner of the presidential race in California. NBC News can also project a winner in the presidential race in Idaho. Republican Donald Trump projected to be the winner of the presidential race in Idaho. Up to the Pacific Northwest in Washington State, the presidential race in Washington State projected by NBC News at this hour to be too early to call. Similarly, in Oregon, NBC News says in Oregon, the presidential race is too early to call. Let's look at the overall electoral college, the electoral vote map right now. Donald Trump stands at 214 electoral votes. Kamala Harris stands at 145 electoral votes. Again, not a single swing state has been called as we're watching vote continue to come in all of them. Right now, looking at some battleground states that haven't been called. This is Georgia, too close to call. A difference of about 136,000 votes between the two candidates. Here's Pennsylvania, too close to call. A difference of about 119,000 votes between the two candidates. Here's Michigan, too close to call. A difference of just under 75,000 votes between the two candidates. Here's Wisconsin, also too close to call. Fewer than 30,000 votes separating the two candidates. Over to North Carolina, NBC News projects that the race there is too early to call. Over to Arizona, NBC News projects the race is too early to call. And in Nevada, we've got too early to call. That's the projection from NBC News. Let's look at Senate races right now. We've got interesting Senate races in some of the states that just closed. In California, where Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff is facing off against baseball guy, Republican Steve Garvey. That Senate race in California is too early to call. I'm being informed by the control room that baseball guy is not the right way to think, right thing to call him. I apologize. I'll revise that in a moment. In the Senate race in Washington State, incumbent Democratic Senator Maria Cantwell is facing off against Raul Garcia. This is also too early to call in the Senate race in Washington state. This is the Senate at this hour. 48 Republicans seated in the Senate. That includes one Senate pickup for the Republicans. The pickup they had was in West Virginia, where independent Senator Joe Manchin gave up his seat, decided not to run again. A Republican picked that up. There are 37 Democrats in the Senate, 15 uncalled seats as of yet in the United States Senate. So again, we don't have many more poll closings coming. We got one at midnight. We got one at 1 a.m. We got poll closings everywhere. I should tell you, in Arizona, where we do have polls closed, Arizona is yet another state where we have had some delayed results promised. Because of these bomb threats that we have seen all over the country. Arizona counties are reporting that there will be some delayed results, for example, from La Paz County in Arizona. La Paz County's elections office evacuated due to one of these hoax bomb threats. Also, Cochise County, Arizona. The Cochise County Sheriff's Office is advising of a reported bomb threat to the elections office in Bisbee in Cochise County, Arizona. The county building was evacuated as a result of that bomb threat. Again, we are seeing, and the FBI is confirming, and local officials are commenting, and local secretaries, state secretaries of state are commenting on the effect of these bomb threats called into polling places and now counting centers all across the country.
Yeah,
None
Biden's
of these
taking
bomb
that.
threats is thought to be associated with an actual bomb, with anything actually exploding. There hasn't been any sign of that whatsoever. These appear to be false bomb threats that are designed to disrupt. The FBI says in at least some of these cases, these are attributable to Russia, or they are investigating whether or not these may be of Russian origin. But again, our battleground recap, summing up, we've got too early to call in North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada, and it's too close to call in Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan.
I mean, blue wall, baby, that was always going to be a blue wall night. And
Yeah.
I think that, I tried to speak a little bit to some of the fantasies, right, of a landslide victory that would erase any doubt, that would eradicate, the threat of something drawn out. And that is,
This bitch
I'm so
drunk?
loath to quote Don Rumsfeld with all of you, but I will anyway. I feel like Liz Cheney has made that somewhat acceptable again.
Still not acceptable.
You go to you go to the polls with the country that you have, and the country we have lives in two totally separated information ecosystems. Whatever happens, we'll have to really understand the information consumption that young men have and why they think that the economy will be better under Donald Trump when it never was. I think that waiting for these blue wall states to come in because they're so close, because households are divided, right? There could be a yard sign in a house that doesn't represent how everyone in the house will vote in either direction. And so I think it's going to be a late night. And I think it's the polls. I mean, I guess a slice of good news that the polls have accurately captured this dead heat.
Ari, since you were last with us, I've got nothing to report. We've got the swing states. We've got too close in Georgia, and then the blue wall, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and we've got too early in North Carolina, too early in Arizona, Nevada. What's caught your eye? What have you been watching?
Well, freedom's just another word for nothing left to report. We all know that one. We don't know who's going to win Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, which means that when you actually put aside a lot of the energy and the understandable emotion and commitment, we are in a similar place than we were a few hours ago. I have seen people start to jump on trends, but we don't know who's going to win those states. If Kamala Harris wins those states, then she would be in a path to win the presidency. We can see because we have so much great numbers from all of our teammates who rigorously collect this, that there are other trends that don't tell us who's going to win the election that show Donald Trump outperforming some of where he's been in the past, including among some of those groups, including among Latinos, and perhaps in the total national vote. But the total national vote doesn't determine the outcome. So that's what I'm watching. Pennsylvania, there's a reason why Kamala Harris, they have their own plane. They can hit more than one state in a day. She spent her final day campaigning, doing all 5 stops in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
The campaign, and we've heard from a lot of people there that still feel that's the path. While at the same time, and I've heard some of the interesting conversation at this table, at the same time, Donald Trump over in the entire country in places that may not decide the election, doing better among certain groups is a striking and noticeable development given the year he's had and how he closed. But yes, I will tell you that the boring thing, the simple thing, the repetitive thing is the true thing. We're watching those 3 states, and no one can really confidently say at this hour who's going to win them yet.
I do have one call that we need to make, and let me interject here. NBC News can project a winner in the presidential race in the state of Oregon. Vice President Kamala Harris has won in the state of Oregon, per NBC News' projection. I also want to draw your attention to one House race that is one of the House races that we have been looking at closely just in terms of it being a race to watch. This is New York 18, a really interesting race. It's a very tightly divided district. Pat Ryan, the Democrat here, won his seat in Congress in an August 2022 special election.
So let's go to Polym Market real quick. You know, they have the winner at 94 now, but I'm on the bid side here, but I'm trying to figure out where the actual order book is. What is wrong with this thing? Settings. More. You guys know? Click their name. Okay. Aha! Aha! Thank you. Okay. And you can't change your. This thing's. You can't change your order, right? It's like you have to cancel it. I'm at 81.5. I'd like to change the. It's fucking stupid. 82. Let me make it 83 cents even. I don't understand what's fucking wrong with this thing. It's giving me a negative cash balance. It looks like I'm filled in my bed. It's so weird. I mean, I'll take it. I think I got filled. It's time to concede.
The U.S. Senate. At this hour, this is the balance of power in the United States Senate. And this was a big one because this means a +2 net gain for the Republicans. They are now at 49 seats. Democrats are at 39 seats. There are 12 seats uncalled. We've got to go in a moment. We're going to go to Michelle Norris, who is at Harris campaign headquarters at Howard University. Lawrence, I just wanted to get your reaction to that Senate news.
Yeah, that is a big loss for the Democrats. It takes them down in terms of the incumbencies as of this hour to 49 in the Democrats in the Senate. If you were to assume everyone returns, John Tester was in even more trouble than Sherrod Brown, and so most senators believed that Sherrod Brown had a better chance of getting reelected than John Tester. So if John Tester goes the way of Sherrod Brown, that would take them, that would absolutely guarantee that they lose control of the Senate, because the remaining hope is that Nebraska sends an independent senator to the Senate.
The vote dump is coming? That sounds like more copium to me too. Connecticut's so close. Who thought Iowa was gonna be? What was that Iowa nonsense? Iowa wasn't that close. Iowa was. I think same as last year. I mean, he's gonna give a. She's gonna concede, right? How's Nevada looking? Nevada still hasn't reported a damn vote. How about Kansas? Kansas. It can't be rigged from here. It's over. All you conspiracy nuts take a big L today. They're gonna rig it. Only thing you're rigging is my balls. Every now and then I become a New York Italian. Yeah, they're really upset in Georgia. CNN finally did it. Arizona's just frozen. Arizona wants to make sure this election never gets called. California's fucking holding in for Trump. It's not that big of a landslide. Look at Wisconsin, close. Cackling Hillary's waking up. Wait, Idaho doesn't go blue? Okay, good. Phew. Look at this thing like, huh? Let's see how X is going. Game, set, and match, Elon says. Palmer said something. The future is going to be so lit. I'm sorry, who's that man in the middle that's bald? Is that Joe Rogan? No, Dana. Okay, Dana White. Thank God, that makes way more sense. Dana Rogan. Ilhan Omar, yeah! Insane how lucky Elon keeps getting. If Trump wins, I'm moving to the United States. Good for her. I don't know who this is, but... Streets is back, DJ Academics. Who should we check in on? Krasensteins? Let's see. Brian Krasenstein. Elon Musk won this for Trump. Breaking. The cringe. Who else should we check in on? Trump speaking?
About where we are right now is, in many respects, you kind of saw it coming a little bit. I mean, when you're pulling at the threads of trying to move the narrative around the idea of women's reproductive health, and there's resistance to that. When you're talking about our role in the world, and
was it a recent video?
And I think what we're seeing playing out is that resistance.
I can't watch Destiny.
To those narratives. I think what we're going to spend time with, if this plays out the way it seems that Donald Trump wins this election, is trying to understand what that resistance was about. What is it about our supporting Ukraine that you did not like beyond the talking points? What is it about women's reproductive health that did not move you enough in Florida?
Yeah.
Right? To actually draw the line in the sand.
Although, can I just say, 50,
Sure.
these numbers, again, this is a quickly moving storm front, but I believe it was 57% of Florida voters voted for.
But you knew what the threshold was.
60.
You knew.
But And 56 or 57% also voted for Donald Trump, which gets to the phenomenon of people voting for Trump and for abortion
There
rights.
you go. There you go.
I don't think it's as black as white. Like,
No, I'm not saying it's black and white. I'm saying it's absolutely every color under the rainbow. It is every shade of how we start to parse and understand elections like this, because it's going to be important for what happens next. If the MAGA movement continues to expand as it seemingly has,
Okay,
there's
so
some
that's
real
not-
consideration about whether or not
He didn't say it
Trump
recently.
gets
Somebody said it was
national
recent.
Popular.
Yeah, the book was a long time ago, and
In some of the states, and I'm with my friend Simone. Claire is a savant in many respects, but is born out of an experience of understanding how
Claire
elections come
McCaskill.
and drive and how they're built.
Margins.
And how they're built.
You know, I wish I could ignore the margins, but it's hard.
Exactly.
You can't.
How elections are built. And I think that this is for, for a lot of folks, myself included, a recalibration of thinking about, and it really draws me back to one thing. That
the Goodell
2016,
promo code is probably all used up
focus
now.
group where
There were
I
only
saw,
10.
A young mother. I've tell a story.
So I
of a
appreciate
young,
that.
White female suburban mother of 2 divorced. When asked why she was supporting Trump, said he's just like me. And in many respects, as we sit here tonight, that question, that understanding has not been met. To understand how, in the face of Dobbs, in the face of everything else that's happened, white suburban women tonight
Still voting for Donald Trump.
are still voting in a bigger number than you would think for Donald Trump.
Well,
Can I say two things?
I just will say, and yeah, I would love to hear what you have to say on this, Simone. I wonder how much it's voters consciously saying, I'm voting yes on this, no on this, yes on this, and not more just a kind of feeling about Donald Trump and his strength and the fear mongering he's done around.
We need a Hail Mary.
And the fuzziness he's had on women's rights. And, I'm not entirely sure it is a sort of list of kind of policy pros and
I'm not
cons that
saying
they're
that
going
at
in
all.
there.
I think it's mostly
Yeah,
emotional.
I think you have to understand the voters. I just think about Governor Phil Murphy, who, after New Jersey was very, very close in that 2020 race. What was that? It was 2020. He commissioned these focus groups afterwards. The governor's race was close. He commissioned these focus groups and his own internal focus groups, and what he saw in the focus groups of these voters that went out
This
and
guy.
did things that Democrats in New Jersey were like, well, wait, what is happening here? He said that we have to listen to what the voters are saying. And so I want to know what the voters have to say about this, and we will have to ask them more questions about their vote in the focus groups in the weeks and days to come. And again, the election is still not over. Okay, it's not
This
over, so
guy's
all the votes are
hilarious.
counted. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is many things are happening tonight. In this election in 1968, it was the same election where Shirley Chisholm was elected as the first black woman to the U.S. House of Representatives. And that same election, Richard Nixon was elected as president. Right, and so I fundamentally believe that the legacies of both of those individuals were on the ballot in this election. And Lisa Blunt Rochester and Angela Also Brooks now join the ranks of black women who have been elected to the United States Senate. Shamari figures in Alabama, a district that was created because people in Alabama, with the help of the NAACP Legal Defense
Shut up,
Fund, the
Kitty.
ACLU, and so many others, went all the way up to the Supreme Court to fight for their voting rights, their right to be represented, to have their voices heard, got districts created in Alabama, in Louisiana, and now and they're called Black Opportunity Districts, majority black districts, and now there's more representation. These are the seats that are going to make Hakeem Jeffries the first black Speaker of the House. So there are many things that are happening tonight, and I
Everything,
think
everywhere, all at
that
once.
everything, everywhere, all at once.
With that,
and all over your head at the same time.
I send it back to you, Rachel.
Joining us now from a tabulation center in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, is NBC's own Shaquille Brewster. Shaquille, it is great to see you tonight. What have you been seeing? What are you seeing now?
Good to see you as well. Let me just set up where I am, because we are in downtown Milwaukee, and how Wisconsin counts the ballots, especially in these bigger cities like Milwaukee, is when you look at the early vote and when you look at the mail-in vote, they essentially all go to one location and they're counted, and then those results are posted all at once. And we just heard from the clerk that they are still working through these ballots, but we're not going to see the results from Milwaukee until the overnight hours. And you can see a little bit of the process. Just look at how wide open this entire room is. And we just got an update saying that clerks are working through some of the larger wards right now. So far, they processed about 80,000 ballots today. You see some of that processing going on right now as we speak. Once those ballots are processed,
Fucking
then they
Melania.
go into the tabulators.
Mama's
and then
boy.
That's when they are finally tabulated and sent over to the county. Now, this is all important because there are about 107,000 ballots in this room alone for the state of Wisconsin. And when you talk to Republicans in this state, they are getting more and more optimistic. I'll tell you, they are very chatty right now, reaching out to us saying that, one, they don't think that Vice President Kamala Harris got enough vote out of Dane County. That's in Madison, big college area. But two, we know that Milwaukee is usually the last to post its results. And when you look at the margin right now inWisconsin, with
No, the
Donald
lock-in
Trump
happens
ahead
automatically.
with about
Thanks,
100,000
Lucardi.
votes. If I'm telling you there's only about
So it looks like we're going to get a
107,000
concession
ballots
speech.
here that will be posted later tonight, Republicans are pointing to that and saying that they are very skeptical that the vice president will be able to make up that total. So the votes are still being counted. There are
Best day
other
of my
places
life.
where votes are outstanding right now, but it's because of what you're seeing here, the fact that we're waiting on a lot of these ballots to come, that Republicans in the state are saying they're very optimistic, guys.
Shaq Brewster for us in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We'll be coming back to you, Shaq. And Parks has some follow-up questions, but I have to interrupt my own train of thought to bring you a call. For the second time this evening, NBC News is able to make a projection in a battleground state. NBC News now projects that in the battleground state of Georgia in the presidential race, Donald Trump has prevailed in the presidential race in Georgia. So again, of our swing states, we've got two called thus far in Georgia and in North Carolina per NBC News. That puts the electoral map at Donald Trump with 246 electoral votes, and Kamala Harris at 189 electoral votes. Again, both candidates aiming at 270. Of the of the 7 states that we consider to be battleground states, 2, North Carolina and Georgia, have been called by NBC News as of this hour. Both of them called for Donald Trump. Steve, over to you.
Yeah, and Rachel, what we can say now with that Georgia call is if Kamala Harris doesn't win a state that's not been treated as a battleground state, if she doesn't do that, then she now absolutely must pull out a win in Pennsylvania, because if there's no surprises outside the battleground, then Georgia plus North Carolina plus Pennsylvania would get Donald Trump to 270 electoral votes and the presidency. And look at Pennsylvania. We are closing in on 90% of the vote here. Donald Trump is leading by 168,000 votes right now. A couple of things that we can show you that have come in now in Pennsylvania to add a little more clarity. We said at the start of the night, 2 counties are pure bellwethers in Pennsylvania. Voted for Trump in 16, flipped to Biden in 20. What would they do tonight? We told you that Northampton County in the east has flipped to Donald Trump. The other one, Erie County, we've now got the results from Erie County. It's flipped back to Donald Trump. Again, just take a look at this. In 2016, when Trump won
Pennsylvania, I give in.
He won Erie County.
I want to see this retard.
Back to Biden when Biden won the
Let's
state.
look at
Now
this
Trump
moron.
is reclaiming Erie County tonight. Again, this is one of those big
Twitch
sort of,
banned us?
essentially, you'd call it Rust Belt counties, a lot of
Okay.
big blue-collar population there. Where are we waiting for remaining vote in Pennsylvania right now?
Yeah, exactly.
We've talked
Just be like,
about
my bad.
Would you bend the knee?
there are going to be a
If
big
it was
batch
the
of
alternative
mail-in
is
votes
death?
that we are not going to
Would you?
know until some
You would
time
bend- you would bend the knee?
tomorrow morning.
Yes.
That's
Instead
it.
of
There's
dying?
also
Yes.
some same-day vote that's been coming in. The same-day
Never
vote has
bend the
been
knee.
running
Oh,
less
wow.
Democratic
I have
than
no
the vote by
fucking-
mail. And again, the big picture in
whatever.
Philadelphia
Okay,
is
the
the
things that
Democrats are
Trump has
currently
said,
3
I will never
points behind where Joe Biden ran in 2020. And this reflected a bit of a disappointment
even
for
know
Democrats.
who
They
are
won
these people?
Pennsylvania, obviously, in 20. They were thrilled with that. But their Philadelphia number came down. It's coming down further.
The
so
redhead
far,
chick looks
and
kinda
unless those
cute.
remaining mail-in ballots really boost them dramatically, Trump may finish with more than 20% in Philadelphia. Also still to come, we've got a few votes left in Delaware County, big suburban county, right outside Philadelphia. But again, right now, Harris is not hitting that Biden number. She absolutely needs to hit and exceed that in these places. Chester County, I think we're pretty much down to the vote by mail in Chester County. Of course, that is the very Democratic vote. So the question becomes, becomes when we get that vote by mail. Harris is at 54.5. She's got to get past. She's really got to move past that Biden number. Will the remaining vote by mail in Chester County do that for her? Up to Montgomery County, more than 3/4 of the vote in here. This is a giant county, though. There are still lots of votes left to come. Again, from Harris's standpoint, she's got to get past that Biden number with what's left to come here. No vote by mail left in Montgomery County. Move up to Bucks County. 2/3 is in right here. This would be, if Donald Trump hangs on here, still plenty of votes to come, though. This would be a flip. And again, of those immediate Philadelphia area counties, this one a little bit more blue collar than the ones I just showed you. So again, that's a trend we're seeing. We saw it in Erie. We saw it in Northampton. We're seeing that in a lot of places tonight. Also,
that's
I'm giving you
Amaranth?
Democratic, big sort of Democratic vote areas, that Bucks notwithstanding, but Chester, Montgomery, and Delaware. In Southwest Pennsylvania, the two big counties here. We've got Washington all in. I want to draw your attention to this because these are two big bedroom community suburbs of Pittsburgh. In Washington County, Donald Trump has improved tonight. The core Republican area, he wanted to boost his numbers in a place like this. You can see in Washington, he has. And
I
if
don't
you
think
go
Kamala's
next door
wondering what
to
happened. I
Westmoreland
think she's
County,
wondering
which is
why do
even
they
bigger,
fucking
there is still vote to come in Westmoreland County.
make
Trump
me
currently,
fucking
take a
run
look
for
at
this bullshit?
28 points was his margin, 36 here right now. Again, if he finishes above that 28, it's exactly what he wanted to be doing. So for Democrats, it's going to take something really kind of massive out of Philadelphia, where really those numbers are disappointing for them so far. And again, out of Chester with that vote by mail, it's more to come in Montgomery. You know, they're going to need to get bigger margins with what's to come. Again, 170,000 votes. That's Trump's advantage here, nearing 90% in Pennsylvania. Just checking on Allegheny. And again, those are the stakes. Trump wins this state. He's probably got this.
Steve Kornacki, thank you very much. We've got a call to make. NBC News can project at this hour, and this is a big one, that the Republican Party will control the United States Senate. Now, what tipped this over is that NBC News is also projecting a couple of Senate races since we last checked in on Senate. Right now in Nebraska, incumbent Republican Deb Fischer is projected to have held off a very stiff challenge from, interestingly, an independent challenger, Dan Osborne, not a Democrat, but an independent, ran a very close-fought race against incumbent Republican Senator Deb Fischer, but NBC News now projects that Deb Fischer will be returning to the Senate. Shows you a little bit about how things proceeded in this Nebraska Senate race. I should also tell you that earlier than this, in the Utah Senate race, NBC News has also projected a winner in the Utah Senate race. This is the seat that is being left by Mitt Romney, by Utah Senator Mitt Romney. It will be held by the Republicans, by Republican candidate John Curtis. So after John Curtis secured that seat and Deb Fischer secured hers, that puts the Republican control of the Senate on the books, according to NBC News projections. Lawrence, let me just get your reaction to that.
And this is huge because in the event of a Harris presidency, she
David says the
probably
president's
would
doing
not
his
be able to get
acceptance
any
speech.
federal judges confirmed. I mean, any, like not any district court, not any appeals court, not any Supreme Court for an entire 4 years. On the other hand, in a Trump presidency, this means that all of those judges can just sail right through. It could mean that Donald Trump manages to broker the retirement of two Republican Supreme Court justices and replaces them with much younger justices. So the issue now becomes, what about the House of Representatives? What are we going to end up with in the House? If the House, if the Democrats can get control of the House, then they really have control of government. They do not have control of the confirmation process. That's gone. That is already gone. But in terms of what could happen legislatively, the House would be in control of that, meaning they could prevent any of the worst things.
And let me just interject for a moment. We have eyes on Howard University right now. We can tell you that Vice President Harris is not expected to speak tonight, but we are seeing quite a crowd there, and we are expecting, we're within the 2-minute warning from a statement that we're expecting from the Harris campaign co-chair Cedric Richmond. Cedric Richmond expected to address this crowd at Howard momentarily. Again, we don't expect to be hearing from Vice President Harris. But I think actually if we can go to this live so we can hear the Natsat here, so we can hear Cedric Richmond and what he's going to say to the crowd, and also how the crowd receives him. This is live from Howard University in Washington, D.C.
Good evening, HU. I want to say good evening to all of the Harris campaign, the campaign family. Thank you for all that you have done. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in the promise of America. We still have votes to count. We still have states that have not been called yet. We will continue overnight to fight to make sure that every vote is counted, that every voice has spoken. So you won't hear from the vice president tonight, but you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back here tomorrow to address not only the HU family, not only to address her supporters, but to address the nation. So thank you. We believe in you. May God bless you. May God keep you. And go HU and go Harris. Thank you all.
A short and to-the-point statement from Cedric Richmond, the Harris campaign co-chair, speaking to what is still a considerable crowd at Howard University in Washington, D.C. You now see them turn as one to start to leave the grounds. They're letting the crowd assembled there for the Harris campaign and for in support of Vice President Harris, letting everybody know that she's not going to be speaking on any subject over the course of this evening. Cedric Richmond saying we still have votes to count. We still have states that have not been called yet. You will not hear from her tonight, but he did say that you will hear from her tomorrow, I think indicating that she may be speaking from Howard tomorrow, both addressing HU, Howard University, but also addressing the nation, in his words.
I just wanted to sort of re-emphasize a point that Lawrence made before that speech about where we stand tonight. We're looking at a map that appears to show somewhere in the a national 3 or 4 point swing from 2020 towards the Republican Party. We have called the Senate for the Republican Party. That they were always favored to take the Senate, given the map, so it's not hugely surprising. There is a weird wrinkle here, which is the House of Representatives. Now, in 2016, of course, when Donald Trump won that race, despite losing the national popular vote, he won the White House, the Senate, and a House majority. He had a trifecta. When Joe Biden won in 2020, he had the Senate and the House a trifecta, thanks to those 2 Georgia runoffs. It is a genuine possibility that should Donald Trump win the presidency, which is not yet called, the Senate is called for Republicans, the Democrats take back the House from Republicans. This is not like crazy talk. This is not like some, it's 1 in the morning and I'm punchy. Like, mathematically, based on what we know so far, based on the flips we have, that is genuinely an outstanding possibility. That could be massively consequential in ways that I cannot overemphasize.
And we're going to have to, as we start to see House races get called and as we watch for additional flips, and ads, we're going to have to talk about those consequences over the course of this night. You're not going to get away with it, with leaving without talking about those consequences. But before we leave Howard University, I want to go actually to MSNBC's Michelle Norris, who's at Howard University for us, who just saw those remarks from Cedric Richmond. We saw the reaction from the crowd from that aerial or that high-mounted shot in terms of people turning and leaving. Cedric Richmond, Michelle, making clear that the vice president will not be speaking tonight. Nobody should be waiting to hear anything from her. But it does sound like, was I right in understanding what Cedric Richmond was saying, that she will be back at Howard tomorrow to make remarks both to Howard and to the nation?
Yes, you heard that right. The crowd, you can probably see behind me the rush to the exits. I mean, as soon as he said that, people turned on their heels and they were out of here. The evening was getting increasingly somber as people realized what this map is looking like. He did indicate that she would be back tomorrow to speak to people here and to speak to the nation. That, of course, is a logistical nightmare on several levels because the university was not expecting her to come back tomorrow. I don't know how large the crowd will be. There are a lot of unknowns in that statement. I do know that there was a lot of hand-wringing and consternation in her camp about when she should leave, about when she should start to head here. And her victory party, which was in another part of town, at what point they turned off the TV set and just piped up the music because the room was starting to get increasingly somber. So a lot of people here, I haven't had a chance to talk to people who expressed disappointment. Now, there really is still a lot of people who are holding on to hope, trying hard to hold on to hope. but the numbers, it's hard to do that in the face of a map that really looks like it's presenting a very steep challenge. And a country that at this point is still very divided.
And to be clear, Michelle, NBC News has called 2 of the 7 swing states. They have called Georgia and North Carolina for Donald Trump. They've also called Senate control for the Republican Party. 5 swing states remain to be called. But as you say, the internal math, which we have been following with Steve Kornacki, the wins in Georgia and North Carolina have created the mood that you're describing. The last thing that we have reportable from the Harris campaign, the top of the Harris campaign manager, General Mally Dillon, said, we always knew it was going to be down to the blue wall, and the blue wall is still uncalled at this point. But it sounds like the Harris campaign is sort of keeping things tight in terms of whether or not they're going to string people along into thinking this is going to happen.
And in that note that Jen O'Malley Dillon sent out earlier, there was an indication there, if you noted, that came out, a little more than an hour ago. And she was telling people at that point, get some sleep. We'll continue to count these votes, and we'll be back at this in the morning.
Yes, that's right. Michelle Norris, I imagine, are not freeing you to go sleep anytime soon. I imagine we may be back with you yet. But thank you for being there for us. It's much appreciated. Seeing Cedric Richmond come out and make those remarks at Howard, you can see how it could be different, right? You can see how they could expect that to be the candidate. I think they planned for everything in terms of, it's close, or Harris is ahead, but Trump declares victory, and then all these things that everybody gamed out. Now we're just waiting for the blue wall states to come in and
Biden's
the
asleep.
math. Sending people home is also like asking people to conserve their emotional energy, I think.
And it's not possible. I mean, I think there's no other way to describe how people are feeling leaving that venue and people on the campaign than deflated in this moment. Yes, all of the other states have not been called. But what they went to that venue tonight hoping to see and witness was a historic election of Kamala Harris to the presidency, was the end of the Trump era as they knew it. And so we don't know the outcome yet, but that is not what they are receiving, and they are being told to go home and wait till tomorrow. It's a hard thing to hear. I just want to say one more thing, and this has also made me think a lot about the campaign team, and I've done a lot of these campaigns, as you all know, and Jen O'Malley Dillon has 3 little kids. She spent years electing Joe Biden. She stayed in the White House to be the deputy chief of staff. Then she went to the campaign and moved there to run this campaign. You have thousands of young people who have worked across the country because they believed in Joe Biden, and then they're like, we're here for Kamala Harris. We believe in this. We're fighting for democracy. We're fighting for abortion rights. All of those people are also sitting deflated and waiting at this moment, and maybe still hopeful too, but I've been thinking a lot about them as well, because it's been quite a 107, 200 days for them as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's important to say that, anyone who has experienced or been in the United States for any period of time and experienced this country's history and knows it cannot have believed that it would be easy to elect a woman president, let alone a woman of color. Let's just be clear. And nothing that was true yesterday about how flawlessly this campaign was run is not true now. I mean, this really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign. Queen Latifah never endorses anyone. She came out and endorsed. She had every prominent celebrity voice. She had the Taylor Swiftie to the Swifties.
Every prominent celebrity?
You could not have run a better campaign in that short period of time. And I think that's so true. And I think that the other piece that I think is really important to say to people, because this is where it gets dicey, is that the fact that we now have to wait for more vote to come in. That is how the process works. There is an absentee ballot that needs to come in and that must be counted, because those are also legitimate votes. This is where we get into that point where Donald Trump can do the thing Donald Trump does, which is to say, I like where we are right now, and anything that changes that, because there is still a chance that the absentee ballot, that some, the remaining ballot could change what's happening now. And so we need to be really, I think, vigilant and important in telling people and reminding people that until all the votes are counted and there's an actual call made, we don't have an outcome. And people going home at Howard, my concern would be that it feeds a disinformation, sort of doom loop that could be exploited by those who've been exploiting this campaign. We've had Russia, someone maybe with a Russia, VPN or maybe in Russia calling in death threats. And those death threats were going, let's be clear, to minority, black, and indigenous counties. Bomb threats.
And 2 points on that. One, to reinforce what Joy is saying and what we know, but the truth bears repeating, we are counting all the votes and following the facts. We are not in a race to get the facts. We will follow them, and they will come when they come. We are not in a prediction contest. We're not in a probability contest. We're not in a is your needle.
It's kind of a probability thing, actually.
We are going to do that. So that's number one, and we are committed to that. And I wish everyone was committed to that, but we've learned not everyone is. Full stop.
Why are you saying that? You sound like you're defending against something that other people are doing wrong.
I think there are a lot of folks out there that don't care about that, and so either
don't care about the real result. They want to jump to it before we know it. I got it. Okay.
So that full stop. Then there's the
Full
journalism
stop.
of
When you say
what
full
we're
stop,
seeing right now in the last 10 minutes, and we are seeing where both campaigns are at, which doesn't mean they know the future, which is why I so laboriously made that point. But we've seen Donald Trump think he might win re-election and sound like that, and he lost. We saw the Hillary Clinton campaign, I say this in the most bipartisan way possible, on election even 16, really think they were going to win. So that's not predictive or dispositive, as the lawyers would say, but I stopped practicing. So it doesn't mean anything, really, but I will say in reporting it, what we just saw from the Harris campaign looks like their expectation is more pessimistic than optimistic. We didn't see them bring out a real fire breather who's acting like, hey, give us a little more time. We got this. It wasn't a long speech. It didn't even, and Jen can speak to this as can everyone on the panel, it didn't sound like a battle plan of here's the next 36 hours. It sounded more pessimistic. And on the flip side, and I don't mean this as an insult to Donald Trump, although it is a negative observation, the only time he's quiet and talks about things being fair is if he thinks he's already won.
Right. Yes.
When it's uncertain, he accuses everyone of cheating and undermines people's trust in this, which is unfortunate. And when he's losing, he's the loudest. And we all were at this table late night last cycle when we know in the end he lost, and he came out and did that. And so I just want to observe, and I'm sure many other people can add insights to this, that the Harris campaign sounds like that. And he is as quiet as we've seen him.
That I think that's exactly what we're all observing. Is kind of the vibes that you're seeing from people rush out of a venue that you just saw Cedric Richmond
anger,
and not Kamala Harris saying, "I'm so proud to be the next president of the United States."
I could have said this to Destiny.
Well, I would bet, I should say, to be accurate, that they had debates internally, and you referenced this. Should she go out and speak?
Grief,
should
denial.
Tim Walz go out
Well,
and
we're
speak?
past
And there are
denial.
different choices you make on campaigns.
Cope.
And this is not reflective of what the outcome is necessarily going to be. But in 2004, John Edwards went out and spoke, right?
They sent Edwards out.
Do you
That's
remember
right,
that?
yes.
We all thought he was the great next hope. We were a little off in that, but that's fine.
Erased him from my memory.
Right, I know.
It's like he didn't exist.
I'm returning him back. I'm
Thank
sorry
you.
about that. We saw when Hillary Clinton at the Javits Center, we saw the campaign chair also speak then. You have discussions in the campaign about what message you're sending. So I do think, to your point, Ari, sending Cedric out there.
We're starting to get pretty close to this being the final.
Not the vice presidential nominee, is trying to be more businesslike, right? Than sending a message that, guys, we don't want to keep you up till 5 a.m. It's going to happen.
And not the running mate and not the campaign manager.
Let me interject for a moment. We do have a call. NBC News can project that in the presidential race in New Mexico, there is a winner, and the winner is Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris.
You call it
the
New Mexico?
Trump campaign was getting very, very, very cocky about how they were going to do tonight. They started talking about expanding the map, expanding to Virginia, which they lost tonight to Kamala Harris. They talked about expanding the map to New Mexico, where they sent Donald Trump in the closing days. Now NBC News projects they have lost New Mexico to Kamala Harris as well.
Take that.
You know, we shall see. I think the Democrats were hoping they'd do so well they'd expand the map to Texas and Iowa, and they didn't win either of those either. At this point, we've got 2 of the 7 swing states called. They are North Carolina and Georgia, both called per NBC News for Donald Trump. We're still watching the results come in all of the other swing states. We're heading toward a 1 a.m. closing in Alaska. That'll be our last poll closing of the night. Steve, as we're heading toward that, what are you watching?
Yeah, I'm watching Pennsylvania because now we've inched over 90% of the vote in, and Trump's margin now has moved over 200,000 votes in Pennsylvania. That's a 3.5 almost point advantage for Trump. What just happened and what's left? Well, we just got a big piece of the puzzle. York County this is a biggie. Again, we talk about that south central Pennsylvania region as a sleeper. We just got all of the rest of the vote here. There was a lot outstanding, and again, to put this in perspective, this is an improvement from Trump over where it was 4 years ago, and that completes pretty much the storyline in this region of the state. One of the big questions we asked in Pennsylvania at the start of the night was, would Trump decline further in this part of the state? He had dropped a bit. I'm sorry, he had dropped a bit in 2020. He didn't drop any further in counties like this tonight. Lebanon County, Lancaster County, Cumberland County, now York County. Where else did we just get results? We got it in Westmoreland County. We're almost complete here. Again, big Republican suburban, some rural areas too, certainly, but big Republican county outside Pittsburgh. And again, Trump is running a little bit better than he did here in 2020. That's what his campaign wanted to see. We also got some more results out of Montgomery County. We're getting close to everything in there. 86%. Harris is winning in Montgomery County, big suburban county right outside Philadelphia. It's a 22-point margin for her. But what we have been watching is this number, this Harris number, has been ticking down ever so slightly with every update. Why? Because every update is the vote that was cast today. That is the most Republican-friendly vote. The vote by mail, the most Democratic-friendly, that was released early in Montgomery County. So what are we still waiting on in Pennsylvania? Well, again, Philadelphia, we've got about 80% of the vote in here right now. Harris's margin, 356,000. Again, Democrats want to get that somewhere around, need it, somewhere around north of, frankly, 500,000 votes.
Apparently, Trump's,
again, Jacob said
Trump's
gonna
about
be
to
a big
speak.
vote by mail update in the morning. Get some clarity on that. But Democrats need to boost the number there. We are waiting as well in Chester County on the vote by mail. They do it at the very end there. Oh.
Sorry, Steve, didn't mean to catch you off mid-word there. This is our final poll closing of the night. It is 1 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast, and that means we've got our final poll closing, and that is in Alaska. Right now, the projection in the presidential race in Alaska is that
everyone at Mar-a-Lago,
Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. In terms of the road to 270,
from a friend who's there, everyone at Mar-a-Lago has moved to the convention center, I guess, in Florida. So we will be seeing Trump speak any minute now. Maybe another half hour. I don't know if Elon will speak. Michigan's looking ugly. Elon's having a whole new baby tonight. We'll see. Should we play some chess? Okay. Wifey says play some chess. Okay, I'm out of practice. We'll give it a shot. If wifey's watching, I gotta try way harder. Let's do 10 minutes just for